Hello, ladies and gentlemen, your excellencies. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and see you all to join us for a lovely, interesting fireside chat. And I know we've just been introduced, but my name is Jane Witherspoon. I'm the Bureau Chief for Euronews here in the Middle East. And I'm so pleased to say that I'm joined by Her Excellency Ohud Al-Roumi, Minister of State for Government, Development and Future. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jane, and it gives me great pleasure to be among this distinguished guests this morning.
We have got a great discussion to do now, and it's talking about, how can governments regulate future trends and technologies? What does the future look like? I guess that's the million-dollar question that we're all searching the answer for. How can we develop future frameworks, systems, and policies to regulate potential futures? So we're going to kick off with my first question, and that is that today's regulatory systems come with limitations when it comes to the future. What are the current challenges, and why do we need an overhaul in terms of regulation?
So before we start, I just want to warn you, Jane, I don't have the answer for your 1 billion question. This is a very interesting topic. If we go back to the history to understand the future, the first known written sets of laws and regulations are the codes of Hammurabi,
yes,
of the king of Babylon, dating to 4,000 years ago. And since then, laws and regulations have always been very important for us to ensure safety, regulate economic activities, ensure order around the world. And over the years, they have evolved with us as humanity and became more stronger through the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, the digital revolution, and now the fourth industrial revolutions. And going into the future, they will become more important because laws and regulations will either be a barrier or a safe enabler for the new business models, for the new sectors, for the new sets of human life, if I would say. However, there are many challenges with the current laws and regulations, and I would love to touch briefly on 3 of them.
Yes, please.
First, the cost of laws and regulations is very high because we have a lot of rules and regulations. So if I take the US, for example, the cost of laws and regulations on businesses is around 1.9 trillion US dollar. And if this cost is an economy, it will be among the top largest 10 economies in the world. Second, many of these laws and regulations are outdated. Do you know, Jane, that in some parts of the world, sitting down in a public sidewalk, running out of gas, or even training your dog are still illegal?
Wow.
These laws and regulations were developed for a different social and economic era, but they still exist because even legislators aren't aware that they exist, so they can revoke them. The third challenge is the pace and scope that emerging technologies and scientific advancement are moving.
It's crazy. How do we keep up with that?
The reactive approach to legislation is very slow. Sometimes, by the time you get the legislation and the law, it's already outdated. I don't want only to talk about challenges. I think there is an opportunity for many countries around the world when it comes to laws and regulations because nobody have the answer yet. Right now, we know that the competitiveness of nations are linked to their legal system, to their laws and regulations. And going into the future, it will be more important because the rules and regulations in any country will determine how will they be successful in attracting talent, investment, creating new sectors. And in the United Arab Emirates, we are mindful of that. So for example, Jane, last year as we were celebrating our Golden Jubilee, we had the largest regulatory reform in the history of the country, 40 laws. And we are working on the second set of laws and regulations because we know the power of laws and regulation in ensuring the competitiveness of our nation going into the future.
I think we're very lucky that we live in this fantastic country, and it is so progressive, and we have events like this where we can discuss it and debate and move forwards. You mentioned their opportunity. You know, what innovations in regulation are needed when looking towards what is very much an uncertain future, and how can we implement them?
I think with this uncertain future, things are evolving very quickly. We might not define the future very precisely, but at least we know the trends and we need to be ready for them. What does that mean? This means that our legislations and laws need a different look. We need an innovative, agile, and flexible frameworks. And you know, the word experiment is not very government friendly. And I can understand that, because the role of government is to ensure the safety of people. But I think we are witnessing many governments around the world who are experimenting with laws and regulations in different scopes, in different formats. I mean, we need to innovate in the way we draft laws and regulations. Do you know, Jane, that it takes us 18 minutes to read the privacy policy in any app or whatever? Who had the time to spend 18 minutes reading?
I'm guilty of just quickly scrolling through. I'm sorry, I put my hands up.
We need to innovate also in the validation of these laws and regulations. What about having more time-bound laws and regulations that expire? We need to innovate when it comes to governing these laws and regulations in smart way. And some countries and some companies are experimenting with smart contracts. We need also to innovate when it comes to governing these laws and regulations. Are they ready for digital implementation? So we need a different look when it comes to laws and regulations. And we see many innovations around the world. And let me share with you a few examples of them. Sandboxes. We see an increase in number of sandboxes, regulatory sandboxes around the world, whether it is for health, fintech, AI, data, because they're safe spaces where companies can innovate. If we talk, for example, about fintech, there are 70 fintech sandboxes around the world in 50 jurisdictions. Another example of innovation is New Zealand, Australia are trying to develop machine-readable laws and regulation. So it is easier for implementation in a digital world. I just came back from Korea, and Korea is really embracing the fourth industrial revolution. And what they've done, they have a designated regulation-free zones, where they give the freedom for companies to innovate, disrupt things in a certain area. So while giving them the freedom, they're also protecting the innovation. And if they prove to be good, then they can expand beyond those zones. And in the UAE, we have established the RegLab. What is the RegLab? The RegLab provides an agile environment that brings together private sector, legislators, innovators to experiment with licensing new technologies or new economic sectors, whether it is driverless cars, drones, AI, and data. And we need to see more of these innovations to help think of the new framework for laws and regulations around the world.
You're going to GITEX after this, aren't you? I know what you're up to. I want to move the conversation now, I guess, to mindset and enablers. You know, what can governments do as enablers of change to support innovation in regulation?
I think the governments can do many things, but if we talk specifically about mindset, and I'm very passionate about this topic, we need a different mindset and new skills in order to help us reinvent the laws and regulations. There are global statistics that say 50% of employees in all sectors needs upskilling. Governments, and specifically legislators, are not exception. Let me give you an example about the digital world. Government, legislators are in charge of regulating technology. How would we be able to regulate such technologies if we don't understand them? How would we, as government, be able to unlock the potential of cryptocurrency, tokenization, if we don't understand them? There is a risk that we, as government, we either over-regulate and kill the innovation, or we don't regulate and we don't protect people.
So there's a fine line.
Yes. Another example, talking about the metaverse. If someone harm your avatar in the metaverse, what would be the implications? Are our ministries of interior and safety ready for that? The digital world, Jane, has no borders, and usually laws and regulations are bound to jurisdiction. Where is the jurisdiction in the digital world? These questions have no answers yet, and we need to upskill government officials, whether ministers, legislators, policymakers, so they can understand that. And I think there's a responsibility on big tech firms to join hands and help governments around the world upskill their staff, and this is for their benefits. So mindset is really important. That we need to have collaborative teams working on laws and regulation. This is not the job of legislators only. You need to bring private sector. You need to bring technology people to think of different elements. People, society, to think of the different elements. So a different mindsets and skills. And in the UAE, we are aware of that. We are launching very soon a mega project, an initiative to upskill the whole government, starting from our leaders to policymakers, to legislators, so they can understand the new sectors. They understand the new types of work. They understand the technologies.
We also have the World Government Summit coming up in February as well. Things like that are very important when you talk about mindset.
I think collaboration is very important. And what the World Government Summit provides is global collaboration. I mean, governments need to work together to find the solutions, the answers. Nobody has the answers yet. And I think there is an opportunity on the global scene where governments can come together with tech firms, with legislators, with international organizations to help revive the laws and regulations. And I think the World Government Summit is an excellent platform to continue the discussion. In fact, Jane, we are planning a new forum within the World Government Summit about regulating the future. And if you allow me, I would like to take this opportunity to invite you all as friends to join this conversation so we can learn from each other. We can find the way to create a better future for our people.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to put your hands together for Her Excellency. That's lots of food for thought. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the Dubai Future Forum. Thank you again.